So Tom Hanks is already one of the best actors alive, right? And this is the first time he's collaborated with director Paul Greengrass in 7 years. Since Captain Phillips, if I remember right. That's another excellent film. But in this movie, Hanks is playing Captain Jefferson Kidd. So Tom Hanks really is the captain now, huh? Guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to yet another brand new movie review, and as always, I thank you all so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy your stay. And this time around, we're taking a look at News of the World, which actually released in theaters this past Christmas, but I finally got a chance to take a look at it through premium VOD. And as I mentioned earlier, this one was directed by Paul Greengrass, and it stars Tom Hanks as Captain Jefferson Kidd. And Kidd is a Civil War veteran who makes a living in America's Restoration period, traveling from city to city, reading newspapers to the local townsfolk to keep them up to speed. Essentially, just think almost what a news anchor does on live TV these days. And in the year 1870, he must return a young girl who was stolen by Native Americans as an infant to her last remaining family. And he's got to travel with this girl, whom he calls Johanna, across the treacherous plains of Texas to get there. And the danger seems to be lurking around every corner. So right off the bat, one thing I'll say about News of the World is this. I can see this getting some Oscar nominations like Captain Phillips did back in 2013. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to. I'm not sure it even is, but I definitely think it could. I think this is a dark horse candidate for a lot of these categories, because I actually did find a lot of really great things in this film. And the first great thing should be obvious to you guys. Tom Hanks, once again, is excellent in this film. I mean, this is one of my favorite actors working right now. One of the most skilled actors alive. What else is there really for me to say about Tom Hanks that hasn't been said already? The man's a legend. It feels like he's an actor everybody can relate to, any role he's given. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is his first Western? And by the way, no, Sheriff Woody does not count. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking at this point. And yes, you are correct. He is indeed a cowboy. But last I checked, unless you're the beginning of Toy Story 3, none of those 4 films qualify as a down and dirty Western like News of the World is. I mean, if that's the case, I really respect Hanks for being so willing to explore his range in this. Especially at this phase of his career, because like I said, the man is already a legend. And you know what's amazing is that I think he still brings that Tom Hanks approachability to this role that we all know and love. Now, if I am starting to nitpick, it does feel like that there are a couple of Oscar baity speeches that are sprinkled in here. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's basically where he's basically standing on the stump telling people these stories from around the world. But you just can't help but be so captivated whenever he speaks. And you just want to sit down and let him tell you the story. It truly is a masterful performance. And I also really admire all the connections that he makes in this film. Especially with this young girl. Her name's Helena Zengel, if I remember right. Man, was she good. This is gonna sound like a really off-the-walls comparison, but this character reminded me a lot of Leonardo DiCaprio's turn in The Revenant. Now, hear me out on this one. It just reminded me of that turn because this is similarly an excellent performance, but most of her dialogue is in another language, just like Leonardo DiCaprio as Hugh Glass. And it's honestly really touching seeing the character development in this relationship and Tom Hanks himself having to learn this language to communicate with her. It's really great storytelling. Here's another really great thing about this film. When Tom Hanks needs to grit his teeth and shoot down some bad guys, he can do that as well. That's what really surprised me about News of the World. And I honestly wasn't even expecting to see any Western gunfights in here, but sure enough, Paul Greengrass has stuck them in there. And they're very tense with high stakes, and they are painful. I mean, even though this is only a PG-13 rating here, you could definitely see a lot of the brutality that was left behind. And that all really comes down to the immaculate direction by Paul Greengrass. He really knows what he's doing behind the camera. And the camera work and the cinematography, especially in this film, is top notch. Some of these gunfights do have some shaky cam in this that's actually warranted and effective. And Greengrass also knows how to show us some beautiful, gorgeous scenery. Even though it's the middle of nowhere, these shots and the scope of these shots is just so majestic. I mean, I speak as someone who's never been to Texas in his life, But watching this film, Paul Greengrass really perfectly encapsulated how gigantic that state is. I mean, this film just looks absolutely beautiful. A lot of the scenery honestly reminded me of Red Dead Redemption. Same time period, yeah? Close enough, give or take. I mean, the technicals in here are just marvelous. This direction and the cinematography, obviously both well documented. But how about this magnificent score by James Newton Howard? That's a name I haven't heard in a while. It was so great to hear his music again. Seriously, he just really knows how to put the proper vibe on a certain scene. News of the World, honestly, is another film that really snuck under a lot of people's radars. I really enjoyed it. As far as issues go, I really only have a couple. As I've mentioned earlier, I do feel like the movie does tend to go a little bit Oscar baity in terms of some of the monologues that are thrown in here. It's not to say I'd be disappointed to see Tom Hanks get nominated for this performance. Part of me kind of hopes he does. I just wish it didn't feel as obvious to me that these speeches were basically Oscar video package moments. Also, in terms of this plot structure, it can get pretty repetitive. I mean, you have Tom Hanks and this girl setting off on this journey or a road trip of sorts. They run into some bad folk, and then for nefarious reasons, gunfight ensues. Scrub, rinse, and repeat. And I legitimately do mean that. The first act and the second act of News of the World almost feel interchangeable structure-wise. And because of that, I hate to say it, unfortunately, I feel like this film tended to meander a little bit. But besides those little nitpicks, this is a perfectly solid film from some extremely talented people, and give or take 5 years or so, I think this definitely has the potential to be all of your father's favorite film. I'm gonna give News of the World a B+. I enjoyed this one. It's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, obviously, but I think if you guys really dig westerns like I do, I really think this one will be worth your while. If you guys feel safe going to a theater to see it, I definitely recommend seeing it that way. But if theaters are not really accessible to you right now, it's on premium VOD right now. That's how I watched it. I think either way, you guys will get a real kick out of this. Because sometimes, given their past work, you just kind of gotta trust that these artists know what they're doing. And sure enough, they do. But what did you guys think of News of the World? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? What is your favorite Western film of all time? I would love to discuss all of those thoughts with you guys all down there in the comments. If you guys are enjoying this content, and if you guys are also looking for a place to continue discussing cinema and all things entertainment, I think this channel could be the one for you. So if you guys are new here, or if you haven't already, please definitely consider hitting that big red subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. It is free, number one. It really would help out the channel if you did so. And you will also be the first ones to know anytime I upload a new video over here. If you guys like this video also, please be sure to leave a thumbs up on your way out. I'd really appreciate that. And as always, look out for more exciting content hitting this channel very soon. You guys are the best. So with all that being said, back talk, commence.